Why do we do the things we do? What really makes an action right or wrong? These aren't just questions for philosophers in an ivory tower. They're questions we bump into every single day. And that's what ethics is all about, finding a better way to think through our toughest choices. So let's start with a classic. All right, to really get our brains working, we're going to jump straight into a famous thought experiment. It's one of those that puts you in a totally impossible situation where there are just no easy answers. Okay, so picture this. You're just standing near some train tracks. You can hear that familiar rumble of a train coming, but this one sounds fast, like way too fast to stop. And then you look down the track and you see 5 workers. They've all got headphones on, totally oblivious, they can't hear a thing. If that train keeps going on its current path, it is going to hit them. There's just no time for them to get out of the way. But then you notice something. Right beside you, there's a lever, a track switch, and you realize in a split second that you have the power to do something. You can actually divert the train. Your eyes dart over to the other track, the one you could switch the train to. And there's one person there, working all by themselves, just as unaware as the others. If you pull that lever, the train goes directly towards them. So that's it. That's the choice. Do nothing, and 5 people are gone. Pull the lever, and you save those 5, but you are actively, consciously choosing to end one person's life. So what do? What does your gut tell you is the right thing to do here? Situations like that one, even if they are just hypotheticals, really show why we need more than just a gut feeling to make these calls. We need a framework, right? A set of tools to really break down the problem. And this brings us to a really important distinction, the difference between morals and ethics. So, formally speaking, ethics is a branch of philosophy. Its whole goal is to create a system for figuring out right and wrong. It's not just about what feels right in the moment, but about building consistent, defensible principles that can guide our actions. This chart here does a fantastic job of laying it all out. Think of it this way. Ethics, on the left, are like the shared principles or a professional code, like the code of ethics for doctors or lawyers. Morals, on the right, are more personal. They're your individual principles about right and wrong, shaped by your upbringing, your culture, your experiences. So you could say ethics is the system, and morals are your own personal compass within that system. Okay, let's build on that idea by looking at all the rules that kind of guide our day-to-day lives. Because, as you're about to see, not every rule we follow is actually a moral one. Let's think about this one for a second. Is using correct grammar a moral issue? I mean, if you use the wrong "your," does that make you a bad person? Probably not, right? And this highlights a really crucial distinction. See, moral standards deal with the big stuff. We're talking about principles that if you break them, could have serious, real-world consequences for people's well-being. Think about ideas like justice, honesty, and the value of human life. The trolley problem? Yeah, that's a direct clash of moral standards. And then, on the other hand, you have non-moral standards. These are basically the conventions of a society. Rules of etiquette, like not chewing with your mouth open, or standards of fashion, or, yes, the rules of grammar. Breaking these might make you seem a little rude or maybe uncool, but it just doesn't carry that same deep ethical weight. It's not a fundamental issue of right and wrong. So now that we can sort of tell the difference between a real moral issue and, say, just bad manners, let's look at how these dilemmas actually show up in our lives. Because they're not just in thought experiments. They happen at every single level of society. And this is a brilliant way to see how these problems scale up. At the individual level, maybe it's you, and you have a personal conflict with a policy at your job. Then, at the organizational level, a whole company might face a dilemma, like choosing between making more money and protecting the environment. And finally, at the systematic level, you've got these massive dilemmas created by our social or political systems that can affect, well, everyone. Okay, so here's the most important point of all of this. Studying ethics isn't about getting a big rule book with all the right answers. Nobody can just hand you the correct answer to the trolley problem. Instead, it's about building your own toolkit for better, clearer, and more consistent moral thinking. And these are the tools you get in that kit. The ability to spot what's actually a moral problem versus what's just a matter of taste. The skill to analyze a tough situation using established ethical ideas. The practice of making a decision based on reason and facts, not just pure emotion. And, this one's huge, developing a sense for what benefits everyone, what we call the common good. We started with that hypothetical train, right? a puzzle that's just designed to make us think. But the real value here, the real power of ethics, comes when we apply these tools to our own lives. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. What's a real moral dilemma you've had to face? And looking back, what tools from this toolkit could have helped you figure it out?